Hello and welcome back to Dynamis, the game about God and His living church. In this video, I'll explain to you the basic mode. We just set up the game in the previous video, and now we're going to start playing. Dynamis is played in cycles of years. Each year consists of first a reflection phase, then the action phase, and third and last, the traditions phase. The team with the youngest player will start the game and will get this starting player chip. You will start the game with the reflection phase. In the previous video, we set up 4 card piles with the green cards according to the basic mode, and from those card piles, each team, when it's their turn, will draw 1 card. Just a tip for each one of you: do what you do best. That means draw from the card pile a card that corresponds to the strength of your church. Once every team has drawn a card, we continue to the next phase, the action phase. In the action phase, those cards that you drew will be played and put into action. Each card is divided into 3 areas, usually. Let me grab one. We have the action, we have the requirement, and we have the consequence. Action is what you need to read as soon as the card is played. I'm just going to take one example here. This card is church coexistence. The action is the relationship between the churches in the region is good. This specific card does not have a requirement, and so we go straight to the consequence, and the consequence is the value love increases by 1 point in all churches. I believe all the churches will be happy about this one. I already picked another card, this time from the area of spirituality. Here, the action is, if we worship God, thank Him, and pray for each other, we can forget everything else. And this gives us strength for our everyday life. Now this card comes with a requirement. The requirement is that spirituality is at least at 7. If you have the quality of spirituality developed to 7 or above in your church, you can play this card. If not, well, you cannot play it yet. You can keep it on your hand and wait until you have developed the church further. The consequence of this is that 2 times D10 new guests come to the service. What is D10? Well, in Dynamis we work with 3 types of dice that I have right here. There is the quite standard 6-sided die. Then we have this red 3-sided die, and we have this blue 10-sided die. D10 refers to this 10-sided die. So, as a consequence for this specific card, you roll the D10 twice, and whatever the amount is, that is the amount of guests that you will receive in your church building. That means you add the exact amount of chips to the yellow dots in your church building. Another example, I picked here a card from the area of leadership. Here the action is: our leadership committee works purposefully to increase the quality of our community. The requirement here: take the test on leadership. What is a test? A test is always a test of your church and its qualities. In this case, the quality of leadership. This test will always involve a D10 die, and as you roll the die, it is important that the quality of your church is equal or higher than the value of the die. Of course, this means the higher qualities that you have, the better chances you have on tests. So, as an example of this specific case, if your leadership value is at 7 and you roll 5, you pass the test. And as you pass the test, the consequence is what is going to be played next. The consequence here is we are allowed to raise our lowest quality by a D3. If there are several lowest qualities, we can freely decide which one we raise. D3 refers to this red die, and you will roll it and increase your lowest value accordingly, or if you have many that are the same, then you choose which one you would like to increase. If you do not pass the test, usually nothing happens, but you tried. When everybody has played their cards in the action phase, we move on to the traditions phase. In the traditions phase, you can use the cards that you've played, if you've passed them or not, and put them in the traditions slot on your board. At the end of each year, you will then be able to use those cards that you have chosen to be traditions again. That, of course, is a great bonus if you can use those cards which reflect your biggest strengths again and again as action cards. We start the traditions phase with those things that are already traditions, those things that have been proven. And, well, of course, in the first year of Dynamis, you will not have any traditions yet, so you can just skip ahead straight to the next step, which is to decide on new traditions. There are some things that we need to consider in this traditions phase. The first thing that we need to consider is that these cards need to be able to be used as traditions. That is written right up here. The second thing that you need to think about is, do you have enough deacons? You can only have as many traditions as you have deacons. Now, there's a possibility that you would lose a deacon. If this does happen, then you do not decide by yourself which tradition you lose, but your left neighbor will do that for you. And he might decide to take away that tradition that hasn't served you all along, or he might just decide to take away that tradition that has been keeping you running the best. The third thing to consider with traditions is that once you have made a card a tradition, it usually cannot be removed. There are in the advanced gameplay some options, but generally traditions are forever. And yet they are very good and very helpful for the development of your church. Traditions can also take a life of their own. And for instance, you have a tradition that keeps bringing people to your church, but now all your seats have been taken already by guests. So the people come, but they don't find a seat. So they will start going to other churches. They will start spreading around because they still want to experience God and they want to be touched by Jesus. Another example could be that you have a tradition that increases a specific value on your qualities. And if that quality is maxed out, well, the tradition is still there, but nothing is increased anymore. So it's just occupying space. But overall, traditions are very, very useful. When you're done with the traditions, you have gone through the cycle once, and the year is over. You move the starting player chip one to the left, and the next year starts with reflection, action, and traditions again. This is the basic mode of the game, and I hope you enjoy this and get into it and get good at it. And then the next video will explain the next modes.